So, good afternoon. Today we will do a potato lasagna in a fake ragu sauce. So, already by the name of this recipe, we understand that something is quite wrong. It's 1941. Italy is into World War II, and there's a big lack of food. Italy has introduced ration cards. Ration cards allowed people for a month consumption of food, which was very, very little. Just for an example, we had 600 grams of pasta per person per month, 100 grams of hard cheese, and 100 grams of preserved tomatoes every 2 months, which is really very little. Meat and eggs had disappeared almost immediately. It's the period of the beginning of the black market and the beginning of the production of food substitutions. So food substitution started to circulate in Italy from 1936 with the introduction of autarky. The goal of autarky was to make Italy completely self-efficient in all raw materials, including food. The first thing that disappeared was coffee, that was soon replaced by a drink made of chicory or barley. But also the lack of meat and salt led to the consumption of broth preparation. For instance, in those years there was condex, and the lack of eggs led to the production of a preparation that was called ovo crema, that by the way was produced in Venice, that was used to replace eggs in the preparation of cake. So during this period, every day housewives had to invent something to bring something nutritious and possibly flavorsome on the table. So it's the time of inventing new recipes, what we would call the cuisine, the food of the hunger, prepared in the kitchen of the little and the without. Bread, for instance, was made by mixing several different flours, including lentils sometimes and bread, and sometimes even sawdust, so you can imagine. Many women's magazines, especially La Cucina Italiana, which by the way is still the most important Italian cuisine magazine, had a very important role in education for Italian families with suggestions for how to preserve the food, with a recipe list to prepare good food, good and healthy food in this moment of lack. It was a time in which every single part of the animal was used, even offals. Vegetable skins and pods were used also. It was the moment in which nothing was wasted. So the recipe we will make today belongs to that very tradition. We could say it's the war version of a very famous Italian recipe. I choose it because it's one of the most well-known Italian dishes abroad. Lasagna with meat ragu. But in this case, the lack of flour led to the production of a lasagna made mainly with potatoes and just a little of flour. And the lack of meat led to the preparation of ragu, prepared with the same technique of the traditional one, but only with vegetables. So the war recipe we make today are the potato lasagna with fake ragu sauce. For the potato lasagna we will need potatoes, 500 grams more or less, 5-6 spoons of flour, 5-6 spoons of breadcrumbs, and 2 eggs. For preparing the ragu, as no meat was available during World War II, we will use only vegetables. So, onions, celery, carrots, and of course tomatoes. Now we will boil the potatoes for starting to prepare the lasagna, and we will start chopping the vegetables, except the tomatoes. So the first thing we have to do to prepare our lasagna is boiling the potatoes. Little water in the pan just to cover them. Cold water. We put the potatoes in, a pinch of salt, and then depending on the dimensions of the potatoes, I would say half an hour, 40 minutes will be enough. So now we start preparing our fake ragu sauce. We will need the onions, carrots and celery. We will peel and chop the onions, keep it separately, chop carrots and chop the celery. And then we will start preparing our sauce with a little bit of olive oil, and then we will add the tomatoes. So now we have chopped all the vegetables. We will start with onions, carrots. I show them to you because they must be like quite finely chopped, and celery. Then now we will start to prepare the sauce. So we cover the bottom of the pan of olive oil. We heat it a little bit. Then we put the onions. We make what we call a soffritto in Italian. A few minutes later, when the onion is getting soft, we add a pinch of salt, and then carrots, and celery. This is our ragu starting. After a few minutes, we will prepare and add the tomatoes. So the trick to make a good tomato sauce is to peel them. So boiling water, we put the tomatoes, the raw tomatoes, into the boiling water for like 2 minutes. So after 2-3 minutes, when the tomato skin start cracking, we can take them out from the water, let them cool, and then take the peel off. So now we peel the tomatoes. Look, the skin is coming very easy. So now we prepare the tomatoes. We cut them in pieces. Keep the sauce, of course, the tomato juice. Our vegetarian ragu is cooking very gently. Tomatoes are ready. Now we add the tomatoes to the ragu. Low fire now. I also like adding a little bit of cinnamon. Just a little. Now we cover. Low fire, must cook very, very gently. And keep the spoon like this. I've been moving the ragu on a lower fire. It's cooking gently. Now with the stick, yes, the potatoes are soft, so they're ready to come out from the water. Our potatoes are ready. What we need to prepare the lasagna is a potato smasher. If you don't have it, you can use a normal fork, a spoon, and then our ingredients: eggs, flour, breadcrumbs, and salt. So we start now by peeling the potatoes. Now we smash the potatoes. And we wait the steam to evaporate. So once the steam has evaporated, we can add 2 eggs, and then a pinch of salt, and start melting. And then we will add flour and breadcrumbs. We've been melting the smashed potato with the eggs. Now we add half of the flour and half of the breadcrumbs. And we melt. Let's start preparing our lasagna. I have a mattress. If you don't have it, you can use a bottle. So I put some flour on my wooden table. Then the potatoes. We have kept half of the flour and of the breadcrumbs, so we can add it little by preparing this lasagna. The dough mustn't be too sticky, so little by little we will add some flour and melt it. It mustn't stick on the table, so in case you add some flour on the table as well, like this, okay? Flour was very difficult to find, so they would use also these breadcrumbs, which was, now we buy it, but normally it was prepared at home with the rest of bread. Now you see it's getting a bit sticky, so we have to add a bit more flour. Here's our potato bowl. We let it rest for a while so it loses a little bit of steam, and then we will make our lasagna layer. We cover it for like 20 minutes or so. So we are back here. Let's put some, here's our dough. Let's put some little bit of flour on the table. And also a little bit of breadcrumbs. Flour on the mattress. Now we scratch some cheese, more or less 100 grams for this recipe. at the end of the recipe. I've switched the oven on, the water is boiling, and the sauce is ready. So now we start cutting our potato lasagna. We put some salt into the boiling water, like when we do a normal pasta. Switch the ragu off, and I start cutting some rough pieces of our potato lasagna, and we put them into the water. We put a little bit of ragu at the bottom of our pan. And now, when the potato lasagna comes on the water, we take it out and we make some layers on our baking pan. Then we will try to cover with some ragu and put some Parmesan cheese. Okay, so we now cover it with our ragu. And put Parmesan cheese. So we'll do this till the end. Let's cover our potato lasagna with some more ragu, our fake vegetable ragu. This is a vegetarian recipe, and if you want to do it like there are eggs and cheese inside, but no meat. So last layer, let's cover it with all our sauce, and then with Parmesan cheese. In the end, we obtained 4 layers for this pan. These quantities are for 4 or 5 people. Let's be done. Now we put some cheese and in the oven at quite a high temperature until the cheese has a soft crust. Done. So here we are. Our lasagna is ready. Today we did this recipe of the war, potato lasagna in fake ragu sauce made just with vegetables. It looks really good. And delicious. Thank you.